Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corn Ferry Live. Let's be honest, AI is everywhere in the headlines and has been for some time now. But most conversations are all still stuck in the clouds, vague, abstract, and not really very useful. That's not what we're here for today. This session is about human and AI, what organizations actually need to change and change quickly. I'm joined by someone who's not only deeply informed, but also brilliant at translating big ideas into real-world leadership lessons. You're in for a smart, practical conversation you won't hear anywhere else. And please, please, please get involved. If you have any questions you want answers to, put them in the chat. Okay, let's get started. As you probably know by now, I'm your host, Darren Bolton, Chief Creative Officer here at Corn Ferry. And today I'm joined by Brian Ackerman, Head of AI here at Corn Ferry. Hello, Brian, how are you?
Hey, Darren, good to see you, my friend.
Nice to see you too. Looking forward to this session. It seems like a lot of people are too, so we're in for a good one. So I just wanted to warm you up a little bit. So one of the things I just wanted to know is that when friends and family ask you what you do in AI, what's your go-to simple explanation? Something they actually go away and go, I think I get it.
Oh my goodness, I think my answer is usually try and help companies figure it out. That seems to at least make them go, and we get on from there.
And just out of interest, because I was thinking about this the other day, what was your very first kind of interaction with AI that really made you go, wow, this changes everything? What was that kind of moment? Can you recall it at all?
Yeah, it's actually not all that long ago. I've been using AI for a while, but I used it. We, as you might expect, have to update our board of directors on our progress pretty frequently. And I actually used it I gave it my presentation and I said, look at my presentation from the perspective of my board members. And I told them a little bit about him and said, give me a sense of what's going to resonate well and where they might ask questions and be as critical to help me prepare as possible. And it actually did an amazing job. It came back with, thank goodness, a lot of good things about our update. And then it came back with 4 questions that it thought the board might ask me so that I could help prepare. In life, the board actually asked 3 of the 4. So it was at that moment that I stopped really thinking of it as a tool and started thinking about this more as a partner. Yeah. And that kind of mindset shift is kind of stuck with me.
Absolutely. Hold that thought. I think we'll be getting into that a bit more in a minute as well. Right, so let's get stuck in, Brian. So when people think about AI, they often think kind of futuristic scenarios, that kind of thing. But inside organizations today, change is already happening. What are you noticing as the kind of biggest shift, both in how companies run, but also how leaders are responding to that?
So it's a great place to start. The reality is, just like personally, AI is on the mind of just about everybody, right? And arguably, what we hear from clients is that it represents one of their most significant ways to change the value they provide. So certainly in a world where growth is hard to come by, in most organizations, they're looking at it as an amazing opportunity for changing the way they grow as an organization, and which comes back to the value they provide. And at the same time, what is unique is it's also viewed as the biggest disruptor. So leaders are definitely looking at AI through 2 very specific lenses that is a bit unique to this transformation that we find ourselves in. I would say the other things we hear a lot from leaders are that they are still struggling to understand the path. We have never seen, and it's a little stating the obvious, but we've never seen a technology that is evolving as quickly as this is. And that's beginning to seriously disrupt things in organizations. And leaders are struggling in some cases on how to approach a change that's hitting them as rapidly and as constantly evolving as AI is. What I wish we saw more of, and we certainly recommend, is I wish we saw leaders paying attention to the human element of the change as much as, obviously, we're Corn Ferry, so no great surprise. We think they should, and that's obviously an area of focus for us.
Yeah. And should leaders, I mean, maybe it isn't quite as simple as this, but should leaders be excited or worried about these changes, or equal measure? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could apply this equally to leaders and individuals. I don't think this is exclusively a leadership thing. I think emotion number one is a bit of pragmatism. If there are leaders left that are wondering whether this is a thing, whether or not it's going to affect them, I think it's time to move past that. Pandora's box is open and the cover's been ripped off and it's been tossed down the hallway at this point. It's good to be excited. And remember, biggest potential upside as well as one of the biggest risks. So I think both emotions make sense. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have used scared. I
Mhm.
would use purposeful and pragmatic,
Yeah.
uh, more so than scared. Scared comes in if you do nothing, right?
Yeah.
But I think otherwise I'd use a different word.
Great, great. Brian, I don't know if you know, but our viewers are often a little bit shy in coming forward, and we do like them to put questions in the chat that we can ask you and put you really to the test. So what we have is a poll for them to get them kind of warmed up, get them a bit interested in what's going on. So I'm hoping we can get the poll up on the screen and our viewers can get involved, and we'll look at those answers maybe at the end of the program and see if it's something that Brian's related to. So as you can see there, the questions: what's the biggest human and AI challenge your organization is facing today? And then there's a number of options there: skills gaps, culture, resistance, lack of strategy, maybe it's ethical concerns, and often it can be all of the above. So please get involved. You should be able to get interact with that in the chat, and we will come back to that later. So that's all good. I've got a question already. So even though I said they're shy, we've got a question already. That's almost too fast. So I don't know if we want to get that on the screen. Lovely. It's from Rob. So as companies embrace AI and integrate into their workflow, how do we manage and draw the line on AI prompting where it shifts from guiding the model and morphs into manipulating the outcome? Well, that's a tricky one.
That's a good and deep question right off the bat.
Yeah. There's no messing.
Yeah. I mean, without this becoming tech support, I mean, more technique than anything else, Rob. I've seen a lot of success in engaging the AI to create the AI. It's a little meta way to think, but it's really effective. So we recommend to our own colleagues when they're using it as an example to describe what you would like AI to do to the AI and allow it to help you prompt engineer, to help you set the right context if you're building some kind of agent, so that you get assistance along the way. And that would include the prompting that would help you set the context, and then prompting that would help you select and refine the output based on how you're using it. So yeah, we honestly, tip number one, the AI is really good at helping you use itself in most cases.
Absolutely. So back to our questions, Brian. Leaders are hearing a lot of noise about AI, new technologies, new risks, new possibilities, and that's been going on for a little while. But in practical terms, when you're talking with executives, what do you tell them are the most important things to focus on, particularly right now, I guess?
Yeah, I think to answer that, you got to recognize a little bit where we are right now. For the last couple of years, leading up to probably March or April of this year, generative AI has been chatbot land, right? So it's been about me. It's how do I use generative AI to be more productive, to free capacity, to learn new and apply new skills. And so the conversation with leaders and organizations has generally been, how is generative AI going to change roles and evolve them? And that's perfectly fine, and is still certainly a big part of organizational kind of calculus and thinking. But in March, when the deep reasoning models began to emerge for generative AI, and more importantly, that was used to move towards agentic AI, so AI using some level of autonomy to think through a problem and then solve it. At that point, the transformation begins to multiply if you're looking at this through an organizational lens, because now you're talking about impact to processes in an organization and workflows, between teams and the way teams interact with each other. And this idea of AI, not just as a helper to me, but as a peer, as a member of a team, as an executor of a business problem, really is coming front and center. And interestingly, faster than we might have expected, faster than chatbots went from pilots to production. So we are absolutely, we're kind of focusing leadership on three really, actually basic questions. How do they have to lead through this? What is the behaviors that they have to both show transparently and authentically to the organization, but also set the tone for this level of change? So that's question one. The second one is really having an enterprise view of how the organization really needs to evolve in order to fully incorporate the impact of AI, especially agentic AI. And are they ready for it? What is the organization prepared? Do you have the levers in place and the capability to drive what is going to be a significant amount of enterprise change? And then last but certainly not least, these things have to happen to some extent in parallel. How is that leader? How is the organization setting individuals within it up to thrive? This is the biggest opportunity and the biggest disruptor, and that is true of organizations as well as for individuals. So great leaders really help their employees, their colleagues work through significant disruption. Think of what the great leaders did during COVID, where their first impulse was to ask, is everybody okay? Right? We'd like to see that motion again. And in this case, involving individuals in their own transformation. So leaders really have to be focused on these three questions, we believe, right now.
And are we seeing many organizations taking advantage of those, or are they kind of like at the stage of leaning in and listening, or are they actually, activating some of those three areas that you spoke about at the moment? You see many examples of that?
There are certainly some great examples. I just think too, right off the top of my head, I was having this discussion with a healthcare CEO not too terribly long ago, and we were talking about the need for a leader to set the authentic and kind of transparent statement about what AI is going to mean for that organization. And he said to me, he said, Brian, I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me, but I honestly don't know what to say to my organization because this is changing so fast that I don't know how the story ends, right? Exactly for us. I just know that we have to go down that path. And my answer to him is, how about starting with that, right? It's that level of authenticity and transparency, in a situation like this that's changing as rapidly as it is. It's perfectly okay to express that as a leader. In fact, that level of authenticity goes a long way to combat the uncertainty and fear that a lot of individuals in the organization feel right now about AI, because they don't understand the intent of the organization with it. My other example, which I was certainly amazed and very happy to see, I was talking to the CHRO of a company based in Singapore, and they were focused on earlier career use of AI, and they were trying to work through properly the level of disruption AI was going to have on early career roles in their organization. That leader it just did something amazing. She had proactively reached out and set up relationships with 2 universities to actively look to change the curriculum of the degree programs that this company would then bring into the organization as early career, to prepare the talent pipeline, to prepare university students not for the legacy, quote unquote, entry level jobs in this company, but the future entry level jobs of this country with a company, which looked quite a bit different. I thought that was extraordinary, and a pattern that I think I would love to see more and more companies begin to emulate.
Oh yeah, great. I love that. We've talked about how AI is changing organization and what leaders need to focus on kind of right now. But thriving isn't just about survival, it's about setting ourselves up for long-term success. What do you see as essential for kind of leaders and organizations to truly thrive in the human and AI era, I guess?
So great question. It's almost as if you had prepared them in advance, Darren. It's starting from the perspective that this is an enterprise change that impacts the organization. This isn't a technology issue that you can delegate to your head of AI or to your chief technology officer, your chief digital officer. They certainly have a key role to play, as do your CHRO and your talent, all of your leaders in your organization. But the key here is that this is a leadership challenge. This is an external disruption in this case, and the biggest opportunity, not or, that has to be considered at the leadership level, all of them, including the CEO. So that's really the starting point. And that will immediately cast AI along a path that will have a better potential for success in that organization than making it about the technology. Again, not that there isn't a significant role there. The second, as I said, is, does your organization understand what you are intending to do with AI for that organization's clients, the value side of it, and to the individuals who are, contributing every day to that organization's success? If that isn't a known thing, if that, again, with my comment about it being not necessarily a known end, if it's not a path you can describe, then that's work that needs to happen in order for this change to be successful. If the only time, unfortunately, we do see, leaders, the only time they're really talking about AI is when it's a press release about how many jobs are being disrupted. Then no, it shouldn't be a great surprise that you're going to have adoption issues. If you're not talking at all, people in your organization are going to assume the worst. I mean, that's just kind of human nature, and they're going to make it up. So I think it's treating it as an enterprise change that starts with a North Star that you can then leverage every erg of energy in the organization around resiliency and adaptability, because this is changing so quickly. If you start to see those elements emerge and you foster and champion them, the journey with AI is going to be dramatically more successful, because you're going to be able to ride through all of the twists and turns that inevitably the story already has and will continue to have.
Yeah. I mean, is it one of the things I was thinking about, and you kind of mentioned it in the question before, because AI is changing. I mean, some of what I'm doing is changing daily / weekly sort of thing and stuff. So it's changing fast and immense. What you can see happens. Is that proving challenging for leaders to get their teams on board? Because they're kind of, you're not trying to say it's changing every 5 minutes, but that idea of kind of going, well, it's not going to be here in 3 weeks, or sorry, it'll be different in 3 weeks, or it'll be different in 3 months. Is that a challenge for leaders? Or is that just like you said earlier, is it just the honesty in saying, look, we know this is the case, so therefore, let's embrace that change and let's just be as agile as we can? Is that a challenge at the moment, or
you might say it's kind of the challenge of this moment, right? Because if you look at prior technology-driven transformations, you've had not a luxury, but you've been able to take a very thoughtful, let me prototype, let me design, let me pilot, let me create a global process. It's been more methodical in its evolution, because this technology has kind of advanced to a certain point, and then it became accessible and started to commoditize. You had a much more known cycle of adoption than we see here. It's in this one, we tell leaders all the time, you can neither rest on your success or your failures, because this is changing so very quickly. I had a senior executive who said, well, when does this project start and end? And my answer was, it's not a project, it's a process. And so it's a mindset in the organization to constantly test and retest, because this technology is evolving as quickly as it is. And that's true both of successes, right? I have organizations that had their first AI use cases a year and a half ago, should be coming back around to understand how to redo those successes, leveraging the way technology works now. Remember, agentic AI is less than 6 months old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? And has dramatically changed the calculus and the strategy for most organizations at this point. So you can't rest on your success. And by the same token, a use case that didn't work last week could very well work this week. You're one, revision of a frontier model away from an improvement. And the core frontier model providers are advancing their technology literally weekly. So it's that element for a leader, because we think about how they have to manage ambiguity and balance risk in this equation. It's constant. It's always an element of leadership,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
dialed up to 11 here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as an individual, you said it. I mean, if we were having a conversation with a group of Korn Ferry colleagues this morning, and we said, the last time you tried ChatGPT was 6 months ago, and it didn't quite work for you, so you put it aside and said, AI must not be for me, please come back, right?
Yeah.
6 months ago is, the Stone Age. It's basically
A lifetime. Yeah.
TV, right? And that is that muscle of managing through ambiguity, of curiosity about what can this do now, seeing that at an organization, how you reward that at an organizational level, by the way, right? How do you measure that, as well as an individual, is probably the big change in this particular transformation versus others that we've seen.
Yeah, that's great. I believe we've got another question from one of our lovely viewers, if you want to get on screen. Nilo. Hi, Brian. If AI replaces the least experienced and knowledgeable employees, like young graduates, how this will impact the talent pipeline and the very fabric of the organization? Will we see a hole in the talent ladder?
That's a great question. And look, I'm at the risk of being a bit blunt, and Darren, I know you warned me beforehand. This will happen in two scenarios. One, organizations that do nothing, right? If you're still sitting on the sidelines, this is going to happen by default. And the second piece is leaders making, frankly, some very short-sighted decisions, right? My example that I gave about the company in Singapore, I think, is the right way to do this. You have to be pragmatic. There will be task disruption. There will be job disruption. This is inevitable and part of every technology transformation. It would be naive for me to say anything different. However, how you involve the voice of the professions that you're disrupting is key, and how you proactively lean into that talent pipeline question. Is the leadership motion that you want to perform here? Leaders that in all times, if you've just kind of decided I'm going to stop hiring early career for whatever reason that might have been, create a hole in the talent ladder, right? So how about don't do that? How about understand the impact, prepare your existing organization to do N+1, add more responsibility, add more value to themselves and to the organization, and then go back around to your talent pipeline sources and work with them to make sure you don't get a hole in your talent ladder for unprepared people coming in your organization. It sounds easy for me to say, and I'm not suggesting it's an easy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do on Nilo's very direct question.
Okay, that's great. And I think we've got some response to our poll now. So I don't know if we can get that back on the screen. Just remind us. Oh, that's fairly biased here. What's the biggest lack of strategy? Is that something that resonates, Brian? Or
yeah, I'm smiling. I probably shouldn't smile, but I'm smiling because back to one of the first topics we talked about today, Darren. If your leaders, if your organization is not thinking through and then talking to their organization about what AI is going to do for their ability to provide value, right? The absolute opportunity around this and the impact to them as an organization, if that isn't being transparently communicated, that is job one, because you get responses to polls like this, but equally as importantly, there's the more trained negative IO psychologists in the room will talk about negative bias in an individual. Humans kind of tend to be glass half empty as a species. So in the absence of organizations talking about it, they will perceive a lack of strategy, and that's almost never going to create the right level of behavior. People will be very cautious about, even if you're deploying AI in an organization, they'll be very cautious and frankly negative about using it. It's a great question. Great response. It's unfortunately what we're seeing, a decent amount of, and I think a very solvable problem from leadership, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as always, time is flying. Thank you for your time today. Brilliant to tap into your expertise and perspective. But before we wrap up, Brian, I'd love to leave our audience with something really practical. We always try and do this at the end of every show. If there's one piece of advice you'd want every leader to walk away with from this session, something they can actually put into practice, what would that be?
You said it in your sentence. Put it into practice. Yeah. This is a technology that leaders have to have their own personal calibration on. You really have to use it to understand it. Remember my example when you asked me my first experience, right? We, as leaders, we're always doing these kind of activities. We all have our boards. We all have our leadership teams. Use AI as a thought partner. If you can do that successfully, that activity will open your mind to what it can do for your organization and the individuals in it in an extraordinarily positive way. You do this technology, you get your leadership calibration by using it yourself.
Love that. Love that. Great way to end. Brian, thank you. You've been brilliant as ever. This topic isn't going away, so I'm sure we'll have you back soon. So, but thanks again, Brian, and see you soon.
As always, enjoy it.
Cheers. And of course, once again, thanks to all of you out there for watching. Really do appreciate it. And the questions you're getting, we didn't have time for all the questions, but it's lovely to see them coming in, and we'll try and answer those in the chat. And if today's conversation sparked ideas, mark your calendars for October. That's when we'll be hosting a webinar for senior leaders, exploring how to unlock AI's potential, while also helping your workforce understand how to navigate the uncertainty that comes with that, which we were talking about a bit today. So before we head off, here's what I want you to do. Stop seeing AI as something happening to you and start seeing it as something you can work with. It's not the enemy. It's also not the savior. It's the colleague that never gets tired, never stops learning, and is ready to make you both better. The organizations winning right now aren't the ones with the fanciest AI tools. They're the ones with people who've learned to dance with technology instead of fighting it. They're the ones asking, how can this make me more strategic? We've seen that already. Instead of, will this replace me? The future belongs to the people who figure that out first. And honestly, I think that's pretty exciting. Because when we all work closely with AI, we don't just get efficiency, but possibilities we never saw coming. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us today on Call3 Live. Keep the conversation going. Until next time, goodbye.